Before we get started, I just want to know if you've picked up my PO cheat sheet yet. What's it about? Well, if you're looking to finally tackle those back burner projects like the overstuffed closets, unorganized kitchens, or neglected garages and storage spaces, now thinking of hiring a professional organizer has got you overwhelmed. What questions do you ask aside from how much and when can you start? What are other things to consider before your first consultation? Using my cheat sheet will help guide you through with getting your thoughts organized and asking those commonly missed questions. There are tons of pro organizers out there, and my cheat sheet will help you narrow down the right one for your project based on your specific needs, family situation, capabilities, and availability. So head to dianejimenez.com/PO cheat sheet, all in one word. That's dianejimenez.com/PO cheat sheet today. I decided to list the 17 habits we've adapted to making our lives easier. If there's one thing that you want to test out in this list of things that make our lives easy, this is the one to try. Parenthood is challenging enough as it is, and getting organized sounds easier said than done. Now, combine these two together, and it's truly a balancing act that many of us struggle with day in, day out. If you're here, it's because you want to know how to get your life and home more organized and structured where the kids are involved too, so that parent life is a little easier and you can focus on what truly matters. Hey there, I'm Diane Jimenez, owner and founder of One Tidy Place. I created this podcast because I know parents have their hands full. I know this because I have 3 kids of my own. Each week, we'll talk about all things organizing, teaching kids life skills, and contributing to the home, being on the same page with your partner, and raising your kids together while you tidy up, go out for a walk, or just need some real talk. I'm here for you. Thank you for tuning in. Are you ready? Let's do this. Hey there, welcome back to Parenting Guide Organizing Habits Made Easy podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. I'm so glad you're here and found this podcast show. I also hope it brings you tons of value along your home organizing and parenting journey. And if you're a regular listener, welcome back, friend. As you probably figured out, it's been a while since my last episode. Back in June, I know, it's been a while, I knew that with school ending and with the kids coming home and being with me full-time all summer, it was going to be a challenge to keep my podcast up and running. I thought I'd be able to put out a couple of episodes here and there every couple of weeks, but boy, was I wrong. Looking back at it now, I needed to step away completely and focus on my family and their needs. So now here we are already in November, and it feels like it's my first time launching an episode, and I want things done right. I've been working on a few episodes here and there since the kids have been back to school, but to be fully candid here, it's challenging to balance family needs, business needs, and my own mental health and well-being. If you're playing many roles in your life, I know you totally get this. So speaking of it feeling like it's my first episode, did you know that a year ago this time, I decided to rip the Band-Aid and finally take action about starting and launching my podcast? After months of saying, I should have a podcast, it's so much easier than video, because it is, I just went into action, studying and following a few tutorials I had from a mastermind group I was part of. Anyways, it just occurred to me that it hasn't even been a year since my very first episode was released. So I shouldn't be too hard on myself. I'm still trying to figure out my groove here and seeing what works for me, my business, and family life. So I gotta give myself grace here. It is a journey, just like going from a cluttered home and feeling overwhelmed to being organized, where the house is easy to maintain by everyone. That is a journey, right? Okay, but first, could you do me a favor? Would you be so kind as to forward this podcast episode or any episode I've released to another parent? or a few who could benefit from listening to the tips and tricks and even the stories I talk about, I'd be forever grateful to you. Okay, so to start things off, as the first episode back after a few months off the podcast grid, I decided to list the 17 habits we've adapted to making our lives easier. Now, I'm not expecting you to try all 17 unless you really want to. That's pretty intense. But after listening to this random ordered list and see that none of these things are what you do at home or in your life, but you still need ideas and inspiration or just a direction on how to simplify your life, try one of these 17 out. Promise? Okay, here we go in no particular order. Here it is. Number 1. Ever hear about the late Steve Jobs' idea or concept of reducing the amount of brain power and decisions we had to make each and every day? I don't know the exact numbers, but it's way up there, almost ridiculous to even understand. But it's in the high thousands or even tens of thousands, I think. And I totally believe that. So what does that have to do with us? Well, family and friends can attest to this if we compiled pictures of my husband over the last several years, especially since the pandemic. The man wears the same style black top and cargo shorts, whether it's to work on the yard, go out for breakfast with the family, or a night out with friends. If it's just a casual thing, you know he's not spending any extra time trying to figure out what to wear. Cargo shorts and a black t-shirt. Save the thinking and focus on more important and meaningful decisions we need to make throughout the day. Number 2, if you've ever heard previous podcast episodes or seen some of my videos, I mentioned that we only have 2 hampers for the 5 of us. And for the longest time, it was the kid-size IKEA hampers too. Each hamper was equivalent to a load of laundry. Now, you might be thinking there must be piles of dirty clothes somewhere. But no, there wasn't and still isn't to this day. We keep it simple. Once the hamper gets full, we wash whatever's inside right away. Dry it, and sometimes in the afternoon, it gets folded more or less the next day or the next few days. Now, this isn't about the folding part, no, but it's about doing a manageable amount of laundry from beginning to end. It's about not having an overflowing amount of dirty clothes that are just going to get bigger and bigger as the days pass. So before it even gets to an unbearable sight and a bigger chore, empty the hamper before it gets to the top. There was a washing machine repair guy that we saw on TikTok one time, and he said the biggest problem people have with their machines is that they overstuff them. The machine needs space to work and for the water to flow through around it and clean your clothes. It's just like our brains. Too much stuff in there won't make us work any faster, better, smarter, think more clearly. Like a constantly overstuffed washing machine that will break down sooner than later, will eventually burn out from an overloaded mental state. Okay, I promise the rest of the list won't be as heavy on the head, okay? But it's important to look at different perspectives, right? All right, let's move on to number 3. The amount of movement happening in the house, dirt coming in from the outside, and hair that falls off our bodies, yes, even guys. And let's not even forget about the dead skin, but let's not get too graphic here. It's enough to pass the vacuum every single day. But who has time for that? We've had a central vacuum system in this house for as long as I can remember, even before we got married. Years ago, especially when the kids were babies, I remember the vacuum hose was always out on the floor somewhere. When I look back at old pictures and videos from way back then, there it was, both available for immediate use and served as an obstacle course for my crawling babies. Good for their motor function, just not that great on the visual clutter that adds to the mental load on an already heavy head of a new mom. So after we renovated our home, We also invested in a robot vacuum, or a Roomba. This baby took over the vacuuming, and we use it 3 times a week on our main floor. This is a total game changer for people who like to keep the floor dust-free. We'll never go back to vacuuming multiple times a week to keep our house looking clean. I'll link the Roomba on today's show notes in case you want to look into one. I'm not affiliated with Roomba at all. I just want to share what we use and what has made our lives so much easier. Number 4, if you have a Google Home, do you use it to its full potential? My husband and I share things like the shopping list, digitally of course, and we set it up so that we just have to ask Google to add grocery items to the list, or any item we need to purchase that week on a shopping list like kids' shoes, or if we need cue cards for the kids' presentations. Since the pandemic, my husband's been doing the weekly Costco runs. It made sense back then, and we've kept it all this time, and it works for us. So now the kids have gotten in the habit to also add things that are running out. It's really great. So it's not always on us to remember or take note of whatever we are missing. So whatever's not on the list will be picked up the following week. And if there's something we really needed and missed completely, a quick trip to the nearest grocery store isn't a problem either. Having a shared shopping list allows both my husband and I and the kids to be on the same page where everyone contributes to our home's upkeep. Speaking of being on the same page, number 5, when people ask what makes our marriage work, we always say this: be on the same page for everything. When you're on the same page, it's so much more easier to show a united front, and that's crucial when you're raising kids. When you show a united front, there's no room for interpretation or second guessing on their part. The same message is the same whether our kids ask their dad one day or ask me the following week. As long as we're showing the same message, we're good. Now, this isn't to say that we agree on every single thing, in every direction, and every process. No, not at all. If we don't know something, we both say, we're still talking it over. But if we're both there and say, I don't know something, and if it's something my husband will take the lead on in explaining, so be it. But sometimes, and it happens, what the other person says may not be totally in line with what you thought, especially if it's something we never even talked about before, or even had a reason to, except now. I'll make eye contact with him, or we'll give each other a look of confusion. Then we'll pause the instructions and discuss. I think it's important that the kids see this sometimes because they see an example of 2 people working together and trying to figure it out live. And the thing here is, it's not like it's in us to do this, but is we don't put the other person down in front of anyone, or any time for that matter. It's just unnecessary and ultimately doesn't elevate our relationship at all. But if it's something that we can't discuss in front of the kids, usually the parent will keep going, and then we make sure we follow up and hash things out when it's just the 2 of us. The next day, we'll talk about it with our kids or the one kid and go over what was said the day before with corrections. So being on the same page with your partner or those helping to raise your kids is crucial for keeping the communication clear, little room for second guessing or misinterpretation. Okay, number 6. When it comes to doing laundry, we do a load of something every day. And some days, like this week for some reason, we had a couple of days of rest, meaning there was no laundry being done for the last 1 or 2 days. And I'm talking about washing and folding. It might have been the blitz folding session the kids and my husband did over the weekend, but boy, it sure does feel good not to take care of laundry for at least a day or 2. Since we're here, are you struggling with staying on top of your laundry? Ever forget to wash something so you just pull it out of the hamper? How many times have the kids run out of clean underwear? And forget trying to remember the last time the sheets and blankets were even washed. Leave the guesswork and uncertainty behind and download my PDF guide right now. In this new guide I created, I walk you through step by step on how to plan and schedule your laundry items so that you'll have peace of mind knowing there's a plan to follow. When there's a plan, there's no extra thinking involved on your part. I also provide you with the tips and tricks on how to get kids started and involved. Included in this PDF guide is an example of what our laundry schedule looks like right now, so you have an idea of how it all works. Don't let laundry overload you anymore. Take control and let this guide do the thinking for you. Head to dianejimenez.com/laundry schedule. So, you know about my husband's minimalistic approach, right? When it comes to his regular outfit of choice. And because I mainly work from home, my clothes, except for my undergarments and socks, get reused a few times more. The rule we follow is, if it doesn't stink, you didn't sweat in it too much, or have been in very dirty spaces, or the kids haven't rolled around in them, then some items can be reused another day or more. Like, for example, sweaters and jeans. Someone told me once that it wasn't a good idea to wash jeans often. You can go with the same pair without washing them for months. Now, I may not be able to stretch it for months, but I believe you can really stretch out the days between washing your jeans and sweaters, especially for adults. So these types of clothes are hung on hooks in our bedrooms, so there aren't any clothes hanging around on the floor, on the chairs, or on the dressers. Number 7. I've mentioned this before in previous episodes, and that's minimizing the number of bed sheets per bed. Right now, we have 2 sets per bed where only one gets used, washed, then used right away. It cuts the folding time to nothing. That alone is motivation to just keep one bed sheet set on the same rotation, and have the extra set is just there in the linen closet in case. If you got kids, somewhere down the line, accidents happen. So 1 set for each bed is what we have. I'm even considering bringing it down to just 1 extra sheet set for all 3 of them. But I'm not there yet. Maybe just 2 sets for all 3. That might be an easier transition for me. So this tip comes in 2 parts. Part A, keeping 1 or 2 bed sheets per bed. For example, say we have 3 double beds, which we don't, and one of them was a guest bed. I'd have 3 sets on the actual beds and 2 extra sets just in case. No need to have another set for the guest bed because guests don't come over often, right? And if you have people coming over every single week, then you might see the benefit in having an extra set for that guest bed. In my example, where 2 beds are constantly being used and the other is just in case, then I'd have 5 bed sheets total on hand, 2 in the linen closet and 3 on the beds. Part B, when you wash the sheets, put the same ones back on the beds after they've dried. No more wasting time folding here. If you want to cut corners with laundry, this is where to do it. Okay, moving right along. Number 8, continuing with the bedsheet theme and back to laundry, because we have 4 beds here, 2 sets get washed every week. So this helps because I only have to take care of making 2 beds versus 4. Like, who has time for that? I don't know, but our day for washing the sheets are on Thursdays. So that to us is also a very busy day of the week. But making 2 beds that night is a lot more manageable than 4. Number 9, if you've got kids, you definitely have messes. And one of the areas you can't afford to have stains on are the fabric on your dining room chairs. Now, if you have vinyl or some wipeable fabric, that's great. No stains can linger and cause big eyesores or slight embarrassment when guests come over. I've felt this on many occasions, and yes, I did try to keep the plastic on the seats of our fabric-covered chairs for several years, but you know when you get one rip in them and add those tiny hands getting a kick out of running their sharp nails down that plastic? So satisfying. Eventually, our chairs looked worse with some of them being stained from the exposed fabric, while others had the plastic slightly intact but looked way too clean from the rest. The whole set looked unbalanced. So off the remaining plastic covers went, and now all our chairs were about to get exposed to the tiny hands of 3 very active toddlers. Just a couple of years ago, we finally decided to change the chair seats to vinyl. My husband Onig and I, well, mostly him, DIY'd this project of changing our dining room chairs from fabric to vinyl. No more stains and always so easy to clean. Number 10. Now, speaking of dining room chairs, we cover the back of our chairs so I don't have to keep wiping all the kids' fingerprints off of them. See, we have wooden chairs with a high gloss on them. We got this set way before kids and didn't even think about the amount of maintenance it was going to demand on us. So once the kids were of an age to climb on and off the chairs, well, it wasn't long before our chairs were covered with their sticky fingerprints and whatever else was stuck on them. So, inspired by Halloween chair covers I got at the dollar store one year, I asked my crafty husband to make us a set that we could use all year round. When the holidays came, I convinced him to make us custom ones with fun holiday characters on them. They're really cute and the kids love them. Okay, I love them too. All this to say is it saves us so much time from having to wipe down the table, plus 5 or 6 chairs after every single meal. I'll link a picture of my year-round chair covers that I posted on Instagram, as well as the holiday chair covers in today's show notes. Number 11, use the dishwasher to wash and dry the dishes. I know, it sounds so silly, but I say this because growing up, when we moved from an apartment to a house that had a dishwasher, we ended up always hand washing everything and using the dishwasher as a drying vehicle. I mean, not even turning it on. It was really rare if they ever did. At the time, and what my parents knew, the dishwasher used up a lot of water, and I'm sure they had their own reasons. But even if some habits I've learned growing up with my parents, other habits I've picked up along the way that make sense to our family dynamic today. In regards to who empties the dishwasher, the kids are on a schedule where they each have their own week to empty it in the mornings. Number 12, sharing our digital calendar. Oh, this has been a game changer since we've adopted this a few years ago. I know I've mentioned this before on social media, my videos, and even on past episodes, but keeping your partner in the loop of all the things happening with you and the kids, from appointments, work, meetings, nights out, activities, pickup schedules, groceries, etc., is a time and lifesaver. If it's on the calendar, it's real. I'm going to repeat that again. If it's on the calendar, it's real. And when you share it, it keeps the other person or people in your life in the know. Often, this avoids guessing games and why you're running late or not home on time. If there's one thing that you want to test out in this list of things that make our lives easy, this is the one to try. Put the event on the calendar and share it. We're getting close to the end here. Number 13. For the plant lovers out there, this may or may not be for you. In our house, for the longest time, we only had one plant. It was the plant that we got as a gift back when my dad passed away in 2006, and I brought it with me when I moved into my new home as a married woman. It was something from my past and memory of my dad to take along in my new chapter. So all through our married life, up until our daughter finished kindergarten, that another plant entered our home, and surprisingly, is surviving. I wouldn't count the random plants and orchids we received as gifts over the years because they didn't make the year. Today, we have a few more plants that are on the very low maintenance side. The only one that I'm very surprised I haven't even managed to kill yet is my basil plant. We only got it for one recipe and expected to only last a little bit given my history of serial plant killer. But for some reason, I know what it needs. Also, I read the instructions on the bag it came in once. Not because I was looking for information, but it was totally by fluke. All this to say, if you'd like to have plants in your space, but not great at taking care of them, Start with one and make sure it's super low maintenance. Succulents and snake plants are great. It's what we have here. The plant we got when my dad passed away is a peace lily. They're strong and resilient, just like how my dad was. Okay, moving on. Number 14. We use command hooks from 3M everywhere. 1, they're inexpensive. 2, they come in a variety of sizes and functions. Like you can hang stuff that's pretty light to really heavy things. They can also be stuff you put on a regular wall or in your shower stall. And number 3, you can get them anywhere from the dollar store to the big box stores. And number 4, and this is why they're so awesome, if you don't like the spot you initially put them on, you can always remove it without damaging your wall behind and put it someplace else. They're easy to remove regardless of how long that hook's been there, 5 minutes or over 5 years. It won't damage your walls as long as you follow the instructions on how to remove them. You're good to go. We've got command hooks all over the place. When you walk in our bedroom, you'll see the side of my husband's tall dresser right away, and my long dresser is along the door on your right. You won't see this when you walk in, but at the far end of these 2 pieces of furniture are command hooks placed either on the wall or on the dresser itself. So often, you won't see clothes on our bed, the chair, or dressers because they're hanging in a hidden spot strategically placed at the height of the dresser so you don't see them when you walk into our room. It cuts the visual clutter that can often happen when your clothes are all over the place. We also use these hooks for the kids' towels and clothes in their rooms. We hang the hooks either behind the door or on the far end of their dresser, just like in our room. So the clothes and the towels aren't the first things you see when you walk in. And the reason why we don't just hang them on a bathroom is because we don't have enough space to put everyone's towels there. Plus, our bathroom's not super big, so keeping less things in there makes it look and feel less cluttered. Number 15, using 1 cup all day. Now, this was especially helpful when we were all stuck at home during the pandemic. In order to keep some control in the house, I set the rule of you get 1 cup to use all day. It was great because there was no way the dishwasher was going to be taken up with just cups. No. So instead, since my kids drink mainly water throughout the day, they were assigned 1 cup that they would leave on the counter by the sink, and that's theirs the whole day to refill as many times as they needed. They've continued this habit since then, and even now, 2-3 years later, on weekends, pet days, and even over the summer. Mind you, right now I'm trying to encourage them to drink more water, so I switched the cup for a water bottle. They already prepare this 5 times a week for school, right? So why not continue the same habits the rest of the time? There are so many benefits to do this, like when we go out, they can just fill it up and carry it around with them. There are different places now where you can refill your water bottle. Number 2, it saves money. It's way healthier and we're not just buying another random bottle of water. So kind of doing our small part for the environment. Number 16, if you have toddlers or small kids, keep their dishes simple. Now I'm talking about the actual plates and bowls, not their food. When it came to feeding my kids when they were just started eating solids, all the way up to being able to use our regular plates, we kept it simple and only used the same types of plastic bowls and plates for all 3 kids throughout their toddler and young kid phase. These plastic dishware were from IKEA and stacked nicely one on top of the other. When we had our first kid, we bought 1 set, and after our 3rd kid, we never added to the pile. It's the same 4 for just the 3 kids. So because we only had 1 style of dish and a small quantity, storage was super simple and didn't take up much space. To this day, the kids are still in the habit of using these cups at times, even though they've outgrown it. To this day also, we're down to just 4 cups, 2 bowls, and the plates? I think we gave them away to my sister. But it just goes to show that even at the baby stages and toddler stages, you don't need all sorts of different things to feed the kids. Simple is always better. There's less to wash and put away, and saves us the headache of trying to figure out the best way to store so many kinds of plates and bowls of different shapes and sizes. Keep it tight with one style and only get what you really need. I'm so happy we learned this early on. Finally, number 17. This is a big one that is saving me right now with a preteen, a tween, and an 8-year-old. So if you have young kids, listen up. Teaching the kids since they were toddlers a morning routine. And this morning routine consists of wake up, bathroom stuff, back to the bedroom to change and make their beds. Now, it's still a hit or miss on whether or not they wash their face and brush their teeth in the mornings. I know when I was their age, I wasn't doing any of that. So for now, I think they'll be okay. So all this to say, when you establish this early on, it just benefits you and them down the road. Now, if you're thinking, man, this is a long list, it is. But if I had to start all over and I listened to this list and I had to start with one thing, it would be this. Establish a morning routine for the kids. And if your kids are on a routine, take a look and see if they're doing the things that they're supposed to do. If your kids are like mine, you know there's some cutting corners for sure. So fine-tune it wherever you can. It's one of the things they'll be doing each and every day, so might as well make sure they're developing good habits that will help them save time later on. So there you have it, 17 habits we've established to make our lives easier. I hope you got something valuable from this. Try one out for yourself and or your family and see how it goes. I'm excited to see which one you'll weave into your everyday life. Let me know on Instagram which one it is, okay? You can find me at One Tidy Place, so send me a DM there. And like I mentioned earlier, forward this list to a fellow parent who could really benefit from developing one of these habits or even getting inspired to building some really good ones of their own. All right, my friend, thank you so much for being here and for spending some time with me today. I'll see you back here next week. Bye for now.